Hello everyone, this is Yamite, and today we're going to talk about one of my very favorite childhood shows, Shining Time Station. For those who might be a little confused on the show, let me just give off a quick recap. Shining Time Station was basically the show that kick-started Thomas the Tank Engine here in the United States. The show is primarily about a group of kids who come to the station looking for a little fun, and on occasion each character comes across their own problem. This is usually when Mr. Conductor appears and tells the kids a Thomas story in reference to the plot. The show ran for about 65 episodes, plus a holiday special, 4 family specials, and 2 spin-offs before finally ending the show. What I really appreciate about this show is how deep it could get with its morals. There are so many different episodes that cover some pretty important topics. And I'm not just talking about the basic ones like what happens when you tell lies or hurting other people's feelings. No, I'm talking about really serious ones like giving into peer pressure, what happens when you scam innocent people, or my personal favorite topic, prejudice. The way that these situations were handled for something like Shining Time during its time should be greatly appreciated. And what makes this show so great is how much these certain morals have absolutely stood the test of time. However, there is one particular episode that I feel like doesn't exactly check off all of its points, and that episode is Bully for Mr. Conductor. I was pretty shocked to discover that someone like myself, who absolutely adores this show, saw no bad episodes until I proved myself wrong. Now you might be thinking, why is this the worst episode? What exactly makes it so bad? Well, first, let's recap. So the episode opens with Stacy going away for the day and JB King volunteers to run the station. Meanwhile, he informs Becky and Dan that his nephew Buster will be coming to the station and wants the kids to show him around. When Buster arrives, things become chaotic. The kids try to explain to JB what's going on, but he disregards them as he desperately searches for Mr. Conductor. Feeling completely helpless, Dan seeks help from Mr. Conductor, who then tells him the story of Bulgy. Afterwards, Buster returns to the station and spots Dan talking to Mr. Conductor. Dan finally puts his foot down in an attempt to protect Mr. C, and Buster is then reprimanded for his bad behavior. So let's get the obvious first part out of the way. The title doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why is it called Bully for Mr. Conductor? Mr. Conductor isn't even the bully victim here. It's Dan. It seems like the story is trying to imply that we're supposed to focus on Mr. C and that he supposedly has this problem, when he really doesn't. He doesn't even mean that much to the story until we're already halfway in, and by that point he's only there for extra support for Dan. I think the title should have been completely changed. You know, you could have had something so stupidly simple like Buster the Bully, or Bully Buster, or maybe even something like Dan's Bully Trouble. You know, something that actually implies, okay, we're dealing with a bully and our main focus is Dan. Now, as for our characters, there are 2 that I have a big issue with. JB King and our new character Buster. Let's start with JB. Normally, he's a pretty serious individual with how he runs his railway, the no-nonsense type of guy. Here he says that he's helping out to run Shining Time while Stacy is away, but throughout the whole episode, all he's doing is nothing but clinging onto this unhealthy obsession with finding Mr. Conductor.
Oh, hey, little guy. Hello, little fella. Why won't you let me see you, Mr. Conductor? I just want to be your friend.
He shows absolutely no regard for what's actually going on between Buster and Dan, and even when the kids try to confront him, he's completely oblivious to what they're saying because, oh, I found Mr. C's footprints. I'm far more interested in them than you guys.
You know what this means, don't you?
Mr. King.
It means I'm getting close to finding him.
Mr. King.
I can sense his presence. I can practically have him in my grasp.
Like, wow, dude, talk about irresponsible. And as for Buster, he's portrayed as your typical bully, looking to either start some kind of mischief or picking on the little guys, threatening to beat them up. What's really low on his part is how he uses his uncle's position to basically get himself out of trouble and make the other kids look like they're the bad guys and potentially getting Stacy fired if they told on him. That's about as close as, say, if somebody pulled the "I have a disability, therefore I can't get into trouble" card, which is enough to make anybody's blood boil. He's just a total punk throughout the whole episode until we reach the very end. Soon as Dan starts to put his foot down trying to protect Mr. Conductor, Buster immediately goes from Mr. Big Talk to Mr. I don't have a leg to stand on. So now he goes from the all-talk act thinking he's Mr. Tough Guy and he can prance around with his big threats, but when someone makes a threat right back to him, now he's a little wimp caught with his tail between his legs.
I'll stick that ice cream cone on your head.
Now take it easy. Calm down, will ya?
Give me my nickel back.
Here. Take your nickel. Just don't hurt me, please.
This is hence why I do not find Buster to be all that intimidating. Like I said, he's a punk, and these are the kinds of people who are not to be taken super seriously. And if I may throw a little of this in here, it's so hard for me personally to take any bit of this situation at all seriously when the actor for Buster is terrible at his line delivery. Now, I know that these are just kid actors, but I'm just not feeling it entirely from this kid. Most of what he says doesn't sound that natural, or it feels very forced.
If you're still here, when I get back, I'm gonna beat you up. Oh, but whatever do you mean, Uncle JB? We were just having fun.
Buster, we'll talk about it later. Wait for me outside.
I never get to have any fun. It's all his fault.
Outside.
But now we get to move on to our main topic Thomas episode, Bulgy. By this point in time, we all know the story. Bulgy is new to the island but doesn't think the railway is as useful as the roads. Therefore, he feels they should be ripped up. So he starts spreading lies to the passengers that he can get them to the station faster and to make them believe that railways are no good. I might have said this once before, but Bulgy is not one of my go-to episodes of Season 3. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a bad episode by any means. It's a fine episode, I'll say that. But with the bully topic in hand, it doesn't exactly hit out of the ballpark for me personally. This could just be a me thing, but Bulgy doesn't exactly scream bully to me. When Mr. Conductor points out that Bulgy lied and made fun of the engines, while I agree on the lying part, what did Bulgy exactly make fun of the engines for? If I recall, all he did was make a couple of rude remarks. I wouldn't really consider that making fun of them. To me, this just sounds like a very cheap way of getting the message across based on what topic we're dealing with. If anything, I think this episode should have been swapped with a Diesel-centric story. Either Diesel's devious deed, or perhaps Diesel does it again. Because I view Diesel as much more of a bully kind of character than anybody. And I think his stories would have helped to bring this episode up just a little bit, and maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. Now, before I close off this video, I don't want to just talk about the bad parts, as there are a few moments that I did actually like. One of which is the Jukebox Band segment. Their rendition of Jamaican Farewell is by far my favorite song they perform in the show. I think it's kind of ironic that, as a kid, I never cared for these guys because I was more focused on the Thomas stuff. But as an adult, I've seen a little more of them and I've really grown to appreciate, let alone really enjoy watching these characters sing. Above all, the puppeteering on these characters is phenomenal. Another moment that I enjoyed was watching Gullible Schemer get involved with Dan's problem. One minute he's acting like a mature adult, and then the next, he grabs back Dan's nickel and practically becomes Buster's servant. I thought that was pretty funny. And lastly, I do like the helpful advice Mr. Conductor tries to give to Dan to help solve his problem, even if the song used afterwards sounds very cheesy. Another that, in my opinion, not only sounds very dated, but one that I don't consider to be memorable by any means. To conclude, Bully for Mr. Conductor is definitely not the best episode to come from the show. While I give them props for bringing one of society's heavy topics to light, the execution really wasn't all that successful. It's overall very hard to take the situation seriously with the forced effort or the oblivious characters crumbling the episode. And while the Thomas episode was not bad, it doesn't quite hit all the marks for me. I feel like Bulgy could have been very easily swapped with another episode in its place, just like I said before. Needless to say, this is one of those episodes that not only has not aged very well, but it doesn't light any candles compared to other bully episodes of other children's media. I've been Yamite, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Until then, I will see you all in the next video.